Ladies and gentlemen, I'm delighted to announce we have one more special guest who has just joined us today. I'm delighted to let you know that Senator Tim Wirth, who is the president of the UN Foundation, is going to join us with some conclusions and his perspective on UN Week. Pete Cashmore and Senator Tim Wirth.
So thanks everyone for joining us today. We're going to do a quick wrap-up, just a 5-minute addition to our schedule because we're privileged to have Senator Wirth with us, who is the president of the UN Foundation. He's been in meetings all day, so I think we'd be really interested to hear from Senator Wirth what's been going on today, and what's your sense of this year's UN General Assembly, the high-level sessions versus previous years?
Usually the UN focuses on pretty narrow political issues, political problems. This year there's going to be one great big one, which is lurking out there, will come up at the end of the week, and that's the Palestinian question, which is probably going to create more turmoil at the UN than just about any political issue in many years. But behind all of this, and I think more importantly in many ways, is the sense and the leadership from the Secretary General of the so-called global issues. The background that really causes the political problems. Why do political problems occur? Because you've got social unrest. Why does social unrest occur? Because you've got major population problems, you've got climate problems, you've got food problems, you have water problems. And this Secretary General, Ban Ki-moon, has focused on the so-called global issues. And usually that does not happen. Usually diplomats operate quite narrowly. It's very impressive to watch this change. He's entering his second term. His first term is over. He's gotten reelected. He's feeling more comfortable, and he's recognizing that the future of the world relates to population and climate change and food and so on. These are the long-term issues. So it's there's a different kind of a tone at the UN, and I find it very welcome, very important.
What do you say to those who would say the UN isn't necessary in today's world?
Oh, it's even more necessary than before. You have these global issues. You have these issues that are problems without borders. I mean, how do you deal with climate change if you're not going to have a cooperative venture? I mean, how do you deal with almost all of the interstate water problems without joining this? How do you deal, if you look at what the UN has done in terms of leading on the empowerment of women, I mean, absolutely imperative, going back to the Cairo conference in 1994, and legitimizing the fact that women, political power is extraordinarily important. Today, I can't tell you, one session after another came back to the empowerment of women. Now, that is so much a part of what the UN has contributed. So there are those, the people who say the UN isn't necessary, in my view, are largely people who are, really quite reactionary in their views of the world. So they don't want to see change in the world. There are the climate deniers. There are the people that don't want to deal with the population issue. There are all of these tougher issues. It's easier to pretend they're going to go away. And there are certainly those, in a lot of politics, including our own in the United States, that want these issues to go away. They're not going away, and the UN's the place where more refereeing will go on than any place else.
What's the role of digital and social media in the UN?
Well, I think the UN's just learning about that. I mean, having this going on here at the 92nd Street Y is so terribly important. I think when we at the UN Foundation have been trying to get the UN to make the transition and try to understand, and slowly but surely they're getting it, and now we show up at the United Nations Foundation. We're Ted Turner's global philanthropy and sort of pushing all of these kinds of issues out in front of people, and now they smile when they see us coming rather than sort of say, who are these nuts that are coming in here talking about how we got to think differently and operate differently. So it's very, very important, and that gives us an opportunity at the UN to reach to audiences that I think the UN would not have communicated with before.
We're going to fly up here on the stage. Where are those mosquito nets when you need them, anyone?
That was the program of the UN Foundations, where it started.
Oh, I know you've been deeply involved in that campaign.
It's really very, it's great program.
You're speaking a lot about global population this week. I think just to wrap, it would be really interesting for us to know, what are the key issues that global leaders should be focused on, these discussions should be focused on?
Well, in these discussions, there should be a very clear focus on the fact that women ought to have the right to make decisions for themselves about the size of their families and the spacing of their children. And that's really a political issue. That's related to political empowerment. Why is it controversial? Because there's only so much political power in the world. And if you're going to transfer and you're going to increasingly empower women, somebody's going to lose that power, and men lose that power. So you see a reaction coming back from, my view, a lot of reactionary religious institutions, for example, who are very unhappy about the loss of political power for them and the gain of political power for somebody else. And that's what happens. I think that the engagement of women over and over and over again at the UN is one of the most important developments that has occurred in a long, long time, and is absolutely imperative, if we're going to be able to solve the problems that the UN is trying to help the world deal with down the street.
Absolutely. And with that, I would like to thank Senator Wirth. I know it's been a long day for all of us, but we'll be wrapping up there. And I welcome everyone to come back at 1 p.m. tomorrow, where we'll continue the conversation. Thanks so much, everyone, for joining us.
Pete, thank you for doing this. Thank you very much. Good.